Welcome to the Soul Grit podcast. I'm Ann Taylor McNeese, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I also love Jesus, and I'm passionate about all things gospel and therapy. I created Soul Grit to be at the intersection of mental health and Christian faith. Christ followers need a place to ask questions and get answers about mental health. Join me as we dive into real stories and real questions from people who want to honor God with their hearts, souls, and minds. This mini episode is part of a series of encouragement for therapists. If you're a therapist who is a Christian and you want to work towards having a more fulfilled spiritual life and integrating faith into your therapy practice, these short episodes are for you. They're bite-sized and made to fit with your busy schedule. Why do Christian therapists need a close relationship with Jesus? It might seem kind of obvious, but it's not enough simply to understand the principles of Christianity or its culture. Having a lot of scripture memorized is not enough. Attending a church is not enough. Therapists who proclaim to be Christian need a deep and life-giving relationship with Jesus, and here's why. Years ago, as a ministry intern at our church in Minneapolis, I attended a basic Christian theology class. On the first day, the pastor presented a statement and asked the students to defend or dispute it. Bad theology hurts people. Because of the impact of that statement, I continue to look for ways that bad theology has hurt people I encounter. As a therapist, I hear stories from people who have mixed up idea of God, which is essentially bad theology. Sometimes it's a wife who believes she can't leave an abusive spouse because God hates divorce. Other times, someone believes that God is punishing her because of her sins, and that's why her life isn't turning out like she had hoped. When someone has a wrong idea about God, it's impossible for her to have an accurate sense of self. We know ourselves by getting to know the one who created us. The more we understand the gospel, the more we can see ourselves as sinful and broken without despair. Because we see ourselves so desperately needing grace, we can fully accept the marvelous gift. Counseling is often about helping people gain a better sense of self, including self-awareness, identity, and worth. If we try to help people find worth in themselves without referring to the image bestowed by God or the act of redemption secured by Jesus, we're grasping at straws. Because it's so crucial for clients to grasp this, it's essential that therapists work to root out personal misunderstandings about the nature of God. Therapists need theology. As therapists, we hear and see people that have felt unheard and unseen in their lives. A client knows that she has a good fit with her therapist when she feels like the therapist gets her. A quick way to destroy that sense of trust is to offer a Christian platitude or top 10 Bible verse. One friend has described her hesitancy to go to counseling at all because she doubts that any counselor will be able to match her spiritual depth. It may be true that a lot of counselors that proclaim to incorporate Christian faith into therapy do it on a surface level, but there are also counselors who are able and willing to dredge the depths with clients. When we remember the phrase, "deep calls to deep" from Psalm 42, we can ascertain that there is both a deep part of God that we need, as well as a deep connection with other humans. And this is why I say it's not enough to memorize Bible verses and spout them off with a reassuring pat on the shoulder. If the therapist does not know the scripture well, she may be afraid to use it in session, as well she should. Therapists who use scripture without a solid grasp on its meaning and context can be even more harmful. Therapists who desire to incorporate Christian faith into therapy have no choice but to spend time learning and understanding the Bible. A third of many reasons why Christian therapists need a close relationship with Jesus is that our job is hard. There's a popular meme going around therapy circles right now that talks about how therapists have held space for people going through a global pandemic, racial unrest, an unprecedented election season, isolation, homeschooling, and more. At the same time, we are going through all these traumas ourselves. The year 2020 and now 2021 has been an extreme year, but even when times are good, therapists carry a heavy burden. Therapists know about the sins our clients commit and the sins that have been committed against them. We feel the weight of depression and grief, the edginess of anxiety and uncertainty. We listen to stories of trauma that we could never bear to repeat. In the secular world, therapists are instructed to use supervision, their own therapy, and a rigorous self-care routine to manage the stress and vicarious trauma. Christian therapists also need these things, but we have an advantage that they are not our only recourse. Our spiritual armor and our first source of life and joy come from God Himself. He strengthens us to take on impossible cases and to share abundant life with those who have no hope. Because of our hope in Jesus, we can restore our souls each day in His presence. When I talk about why Christian therapists need Jesus, I don't mean it as a burden. One more thing to check off the daily list. One more area in which you don't measure up. A quote from page 25 of Dallas Willard's Renovation of the Heart is ringing in my head. The present moment is not an occasion to keep on doing the same things Christians have been doing in the recent past, except now really meaning it. It is time to change our focus, individually and in our Christian groupings. Don't try harder to be a good Christian so that you can be a good Christian therapist. The words "try harder" remind me of a powerful book I read this year, Try Softer by Andy Kolber. Instead of working more, it might be time to lean into the grace that you are extending to clients. Make it a priority to spend time with Jesus, but ask Him what He wants to show you in your time together. It might be 3 chapters or it might be 3 words of Scripture. It might be a song or a sunset. Let Him replenish you so that you can do the work He has called you to do. The Soul Grit podcast is a production of Soul Grit Resources. You can find more at soulgritresources.com or on the socials at Soul Grit Resources. You can email me at info@soulgritresources.com.